Hey there, journal makers. Welcome back to Paper Moon Journals, where we dive into all things creative and paper crafty. If you're like me, you know that pockets are an essential part of any junk journal. They add so much fun and functionality, making it easier to tuck away your treasures, notes, and keepsakes. Really, that's what junk journals are. They're pages covered with pockets filled with ephemera, right? Today, I'm super excited to share 5 fantastic and fun ways to add pockets to your junk journal using some easy and accessible materials. Whether you're a seasoned crafter or just starting out, these ideas will help you to elevate your journal and to give it that personal touch. Some of the tools that we'll need today are a circle punch, scissors, and glue. First up, we'll explore how to use scrapbooking paper to create custom pockets. We'll get 7 pockets from one 12x12 sheet of scrapbooking paper that can perfectly match any journal's theme. Then we'll dive into using envelopes. Yes, those everyday items can turn into quirky and functional pockets. Next, we'll get creative with ephemera, transforming old tickets, postcards, and labels into charming pocket pages. After that, we'll craft some unique pockets using junk journal pages themselves, giving you new ways to utilize those extra pages in your stash. And finally, we'll repurpose book pages to add a touch of vintage flair to your pockets. So grab your supplies, get ready to get crafty, and let's add some pockets to your junk journal that are as functional as they are fabulous. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on my creative adventures. Now let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is to get out my paper cutter. You could also use a ruler and cutting knife if that's your preferred way, or a ruler and make marks and then cut using your scissors. I like this way because it allows me to measure and cut at the same time. So I take my 12x12 sheet and I cut 2 strips that are 3 inches wide. I stack those 2 together and then cut them in half at the 6-inch mark, so we have 4 3-inch by 6-inch pockets. 1 sheet, 7 pockets. Then we turn it sideways and cut into 2 5-inch wide pockets, and the remaining piece also becomes a pocket. The next way I like to prepare these is to get my scoring tool. You could also use a ruler and a scoring tool in the same way. We'll score all but one of these pockets at a 1/2 inch on 3 sides, except that one narrow pocket. We'll just score 3/8 of an inch on the narrow side. I'll speed this up while I do it, or it would take forever, and I like to watch it sped up. I don't know about you. I'm curious, do you use a ruler or do you have a scoring board like this one here? I like the scoring board. I know the first year I was crafting, I resisted getting a scoring board, but I'm glad I have one now. Another thing that we want to do is we wanted to cut the corners off of each one of these pockets where they intersect and create a cross. The footage of me cutting off the corners was lost, but it was just a few seconds. Here I am using my circle punch to cut a little notch out of those big pockets, and I decided overall that I do prefer the pockets with the notch as opposed to without. It does make decorating easier without the notch. You can use a more rectangular piece of paper, or it's easier to cover up. What I have here for us to use today is this fun fairy junk journal that I made that I've been waiting. I had several tutorials filmed that I wanted to use, and here we are. We're finally here. So I'm just using my scissors like a bone folder to work those seams down where we scored the edges of the paper. We scored these at a 1/2 inch on 3 sides, if you recall. And there we go. We just used some glue. A tip here is if you transfer your glue into this smaller dispenser, it will last longer. The bigger your dispenser and the faster it comes out, the faster you'll go through your glue as well. I'm using Art Glitter brand glue in my little dispenser here. So what I decided was with our large pockets that started out as 5 inches wide, or now that we've scored them a 1/2 inch, they'll be 4 inches wide. We're just going to fold that in and burnish down the crease with the edge of my scissors. That's all they're good for. Those scissors they're pretty, but they're not great at cutting. And And then we glue that down. By having these scored folded over sections, that allows me to fit way more in the pocket. If you're not going to put very much in the pockets, you don't necessarily need to have that hinge. It allows me to put something wider in the pocket as well. I can fill that pocket all the way up to the edges with those scored folded over pieces. So let's look for where we want our next pocket to go. We will go ahead and decorate these as well. And I think this is a good page. Let me pause and speed things up here and we can watch me get these glued in. Okay, I've sped it up to 5 times faster than it actually took me so that you can be included with me in the gluing down of these pockets. I hope you enjoy this and you find it entertaining. I try to find tips along the way. If we burnish this down from the back side of the paper, that makes it easier. We can make sure that we have really good adhesion. So on the little pockets that I hadn't notched out, I decided to go ahead and notch it out. Another nice thing about notching out the pocket is it helps you to remember which 3 sides to add glue. Of course, they're the sides with the flaps. I guess that's kind of obvious. And then we've got one more pocket left here. I think this is the page. After we get the pockets, I like to decorate them with something neutral, and then I can always come back later and finish decorating them. Some book page would work, but I have other plans for that for our pocket making today. So I had these strips of sheet music that I'd already prepared for decorating tags, layered tags. So I snagged those and used them for our pockets. 2 inches was just the right width with that narrow notch out of it. You'd maybe want 2 1/4 inches if you weren't going to notch it. We could decorate this pocket with a variety of things. I landed on these vintage documents that I had out. They're one of the things that we can also use to make a pocket, so we get a twofer here. If you just make a little notch, or even without, you glue down a vintage document in a U shape, huzzah, there's your pocket. I'm going to do that with both of these pockets on the inside of the front and back cover, doubling up the pockets there. Let me cut out a little bit more ephemera here so we can use that. I like to use ephemera just alone to make a pocket. It doesn't have to layer up on another pocket. So let's do that. You can use it sideways. You don't have to just make that a portrait shaped pocket. And so I'll probably end up layering up and decorating this pocket more when I go through and I'm decorating the journal. That's good enough for now. Here is what I like to call a triple tuck spot. I made it in one of my Merry Monday projects in collaboration with Twisted Paper Studios. I'm on their TikTok design team. So I share my Merry Monday projects over on TikTok, and then I also share them on Instagram. So to make that triple tuck spot where you can use some book page, I just fold it down and then reinforce it on the top and bottom by folding that over. So you really just need this V shape of paper, with the back being taller than the front. And then I reinforced the plain colored book page, or you could use sheet music or just anything else in the middle for contrast for that middle sheet, and then glue that in there. I've slowed down the film just a little bit so you can see how I glue that center piece in, leaving 2 pockets in the front. And then if you glue it down in a U shape like I did the pink pre-made example, then that makes the third tuck spot. You can see I just need to put glue on either side of both of those pieces, and there we go. The next thing we're going to do for this, since I used all book page, which is fine, you could use scrapbooking paper, you could really use anything, but this is our 3rd example of how to use book page to make pockets. I won't have to keep track of these scraps if I just go ahead and cut them out and use them now, is what I was thinking. That sheet music scrap and these tiny bits of vintage document that were left over on the page that I hadn't yet used. And then I'll just clear everything else off for recycling. And this last vintage document, I'm just going to cut it in half so it's the size I want. And then the remaining piece will be a piece of ephemera in the pockets. This seems obvious, but I love this trick. If I just ink up the little piece of ephemera when I go through inking. And then let's find a good page for this one. I like it sideways on this pocket. It's a bit wide. I could have cropped it down and made it smaller. Another fun kind of ephemera that you can use to make a pocket is a journaling card. Again, if you just glue it in a U shape, this one's going to be a side opening. Doing that notch helps you know where it opens. Or junk journal pages. Yes, this is our fourth type of pocket, is just using a junk journal page as a pocket. This time I had shrunk it down and printed on cardstock, but you don't need to do that. You can either cut down or also fold it just like we did the scrapbooking papers. Just score it on 3 sides, 1/2 inch, and just make it smaller. Crop it down to 5 inches before you start. And here we are on to pocket number 5, is made out of envelopes. There's a couple different, well, there's more than a couple ways, but we're going to look at a couple different ways to do it. The first way is to make a top loading pocket here by gluing the flap down to reinforce the pocket opening and then gluing it shut. And we'll do that twice. I had to pause and answer the door and glue leaked out and it glued itself to the page. Isn't that fun? I like doing it this way with one pocket above the other when they're really small like this. You can use any size envelope. These little tiny ones are printables by My Porch Prints. It worked nice for the example because I could easily print one out and then still, have plenty to have printed ready to show as examples and ready to go. But tiny little return envelopes for RSVPs, I think, are about the size of those little ones. I also have this slightly larger size envelope. It's more like an invitation size, perhaps. And if you want to do the side opening, we could do this with the smaller ones. We just reinforce the flap on the side and then close it with the top and side flap, but we left the side open. And we can put that either way on the page. We can put it upright, kind of portrait shaped on the page. We could put it sideways on the page. This way I put it sideways and glued it in an L shape, leaving another tucked spot behind it. We also could have done it as a tip in so that it flipped in and out. And that's it. We're all done. Let's go through and look at all of the pockets that we made. So inside the front cover, we made a pocket out of scrapbooking paper and added a piece of ephemera to the top of that ephemera or vintage. And then there's a couple oh, this one still needs decorating. Let me take care of that before we move forward. I like the way the torn edges on this book page looks, and I a little bit hope I had used that on the other pockets instead of the cut edges. Okay, now that that's taken care of, there's also pockets in the envelopes. What I did was these envelopes are sewn in the center of the signature. I can show you how to do that sometime if you'd like. So what do you think about the 5 different types of pockets that we made today? Were there any that were new to you? Let's go through. This envelope here I just sewed into the center of the signature, but that's a pocket in here. Might as well check that out. And here's the last one we made. We'll also be coming through here with fussy cuts, and we'll be adding fussy cut decoration, maybe some little collage scraps to some of the pages. This is a great place to leave this project for the next step, which for me is usually to take the fussy cut images and to add those. Then I'll add tabs, and then finally what I call final touches, which is charms and lace everywhere. Here we are inside the back cover. That was a lot of pockets. What do you think? I hope you enjoyed it, found something new, interesting, entertaining, and like where we ended up. I know I sure did. As always, thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share the channel with anyone you think might enjoy the content. Have a great day.